Good afternoon. It's wonderful to be here. It's an honor, and I'm extremely excited about sharing the stage and my thoughts. The audio part, the sound part of my presentation comes from me. The visual, the image part, was created by two 17-year-olds whom I invited to interpret my thoughts. They had 7 hours, a chalkboard, a camera, and no internet. I have not seen the interpretation. I purposefully didn't want to see, because that's their interpretation of my thoughts. They couldn't contradict it, but they could interpret that. So you will be seeing it before I will. I need to stick to the script, and I need to do the clicker thing really well, because if I out of sync, it's not their fault, it's mine. Recently, Ancestry.com told me that my ancestral roots are planted in several world regions. According to my genetic DNA composition, I'm 89% European, 6% West Asian, 4% African, and 1% Pacific Islands. For this I cannot vouch, but what I can do is to tell you about the rest of my makeup. I was born in South Africa, into white privilege. I grew up, made life choices, chose pathways, fought demons, and decided on action, but also celebrated victories at a time that Africa stood up, stood firm, paid an extremely high price, but slew the dragon of colonialism and white supremacy. This rootedness frames the lenses through which I look at our topic today. I speak as a privileged white person who is keenly aware of and deeply saddened about the fact that my own empowerment was gained at the cost of generations of fellow human beings. I speak too as a proud African whose fate is entwined with that of the continent of my birth. I speak as a woman who actively advocates for the dignity, equality, and justice for all human beings, no matter their differentiating markers, for the earth we live in and all of her creatures. Mine too are the thoughts of a journalist who will never claim that she knows the truth, and a Christian believer that embraces interfaith respect and cooperation. This is, I think, one of the most important things that I have learned. The world that we are living at the moment is absolutely flourishing with faith. And yet, violence, equality, and injustice are shattering lives and destroying souls as we speak and across the globe. Our world has never been more interconnected, yet more polarized, more discursive, yet more not talking to each other. More seamless is more divided. Telling is the fact that spirituality, communication, and violence were also the terrible triplets that worked in unison for more than 300 centuries to justify and maintain colonialism, apartheid, and first colonialism, slavery, and apartheid in South Africa. I think it's important that you allow me to unveil the mirror of my experience. You might or might not recognize something familiar. Throughout humankind's existence, people have been communicating using cave wall drawings, storytelling, singing, dancing, chanting, the art, the written word, film, the airwaves, cyberspace, to capture, reflect on, and interpret reality. For the first South African colonialists and settlers, communication were at the heart of forging a new unifying identity, for building their power base, and for shaping the notion of Afrikaner exceptionalism. My own identity was molded by generational family narratives, teachers, preachers, and a communication industry that was anything but objective, independent, and free. With a fundamentalist Christian civil religion and the state's police and military, strategic communication were the pillars on which an unjust society rested. The media had a vital role to play to entrench what I call the great myth. The myth that Europeans and Westerners' presence in darkest Africa was a divine right and responsibility, and that God had called them to bring Christianity and civilization to that world region. The myth of their manifest destiny, the myth that the one who was not Western, white, Christian, or heterosexual was the barbarian, the heathen, the outsider, the other. The other might be a creature of God, but has been created decidedly less human, less civilized, less gifted, less moral, less trustworthy, less worthy, and thus less deserving. Whilst Puritan Christianity sanctified racism, heteropatriarchy, classism, land grab, and genocide, brutality cemented these in practice. Violence, physical, emotional, economic, and psychological violence kept power imbalances intact. The dominant white-controlled media was as alienating and oppressive as the spirituality and the violence that characterized white supremacy. Every act of communication, no matter what the medium is that is used, is shaped by a perspective or perspectives. The storyline cannot be detached from the storyteller. The storyteller can, as much as he or she tries, not be completely detached from her or his position, their experiences, and their interests. For example, for person A glass is half full. For person B, the same glass is half empty. What the strategist says doesn't matter, whatever. Just say what you believe the loudest, all the time, and over and over and over again, and it will become the truth. In pre-democratic South Africa, mainstream communication prioritized and legitimized the values, lived experiences, and agendas of the powerful. The overriding task of the dominant media was to play their part in preserving the great myth. The media and public trust. What my South African experience has taught me, that in a fragmented and unequal society, this question prompts another one. What public? Those citizens that enjoyed privilege, respect, and dignity trusted the daily news like they trusted their Bible. Why not? Their understanding of reality was voiced the loudest, all the time, over and over, and had become their truth. The master's voice was telling the South African story. Voices that offered alternative interpretations, alternative truths, were marginalized, muted, or completely silenced. The daily realities in the trenches of exclusion, oppression, exploitation, and suffering never made the headlines, the screens, or the airwaves, never disturbed the equilibrium and the consciousness of the privileged, never blemished the notion of a hard-working, God-fearing Christian nation. The other, and those who fought in support and solidarity for their freedoms and rights, were demonized, kept on the outside through stereotypes and stigmas, naming and framing, trivialization and superficiality, and repetition and omission. Word choices, phrasing, image selection, and commentary solidified the following dominant truths. People of color, especially men, are uncivilized, stupid, lazy, dishonest, violent, oversexed, and dangerous. White heterosexual Christian men are civilized, intelligent, honorable, reliable, assertive, courageous, and charming. Women, particularly women of color, are emotional, manipulative, and shrewd. All women are happy, complacent sexual tools. A good woman is heterosexual, prioritizes marriage, is caring, nurturing, gentle, and mostly mindless. An independent woman is a Jezebel. People with non-conforming gender and sexual identities and lifestyles are abominations. Non-Christians and non-believers are evil. The freedom fighter is the terrorist. Civil protest is anarchy. Violence in God's name is righteous. Among those on the receiving end of these truths, there was no trust in the dominant media, just contempt, anger, and a fierce commitment to give voice to their own perspectives and interpretations and to capture and distribute the narratives of their lived realities, ideals, and hopes. In other words, to find alternative modes of strategic communication. From the underside of history, they carved a pathway away from violence towards liberation, equality, empowerment, and justice. That public kept on telling their own stories and shaping their own truths, and in so doing unmasked the true nature of a hard-working, God-fearing Christian nation that was built on the quicksand of injustice and inequality. The media and public trust. I believe that an honest and constructive conversation about this topic anywhere in our world today is also a frank discussion about the fact that strategic communication, the media, is value-laden and prioritizes specific perspectives. Strategic communication connects, entertains, and informs, but it also either challenges or reinforces inequality and injustice. It matters what media dominates. It truly matters in the time that we are living in a time that massive human displacement, destructive environmental degradation and violence, extreme economic inequality, sexism, homophobia, ethnic conflict, religious and cultural exclusivism, violence are as real and prevalent as it has been or have been, these have been for times gone by. Today, South Africa can still not, or South Africans, in one voice but many tongues, tell the story, the truth of a diverse yet reconciled society that has been built on the solid rock of equality and justice. But we are moving forward. And every day we are shouldering fierce challenges of transformation. As for me, I will forever keep on trying to do what I can to make right what went wrong.